Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and Kul Tirans and Zandalari are available as of right now for patch 8.1.5 PTR. So if you go and download PTR right now, you can play as the brand new allied races, and they're pretty interesting looking. First of all, let's talk about the outer appearance of males and females for Zandalari and Kul Tirans. The male and female Zandalari look more complete, more finalized, with some jaggy edges. Like for example, some of the animations look a little weird, like running while turning makes him maybe look slidey. Some of the animations don't look complete, like neither of the allied races have a dance animation. Maybe that's supposed to be unique, or it's supposed to be imported. But for Kul Tirans, they look even more, I guess, jaggy. Like when you're playing as these guys, as these brand new allied races, to some extent it doesn't feel like you're playing as an actual playable race, but rather like a Shadow Priest or a Disc Priest. You're just mind controlling an NPC and then moving kind of like how an NPC would. They don't have all complete animations for everything. Some of the movement feels a little bit weird. So this is not finalized product. And it's a good idea that Blizzard is putting this out on PTR for people to test, to run around on, and some parts look great, like for example Kul Tiran attack animations, but their jumps look a little weird. A lot of their animations don't look quite finished. Some of the casting animations just don't look quite proper, or I guess they don't look natural for the race itself. So again, watch this, but also understand this is not the final product. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the fun stuff. First of all, I decided I needed to check out Kul Tirans, and it was hilarious just how closely I could make myself with a mustache and everything into a Kul Tiran. They are hilarious. I love how the gear stands out on them. It's almost like an orc, but like a fatter version of an orc, or a human and a Pandaren put together, and you get a Kul Tiran. It looks funny, but at the same time, it kind of looks awesome. These guys definitely look weird in some of the original sets that we have from Warlords, and I believe in Mists of Pandaria and earlier expansions. But the current BFA sets actually look really good on them. They fit them so well, and I guess the clothes really make the man. Two things I noted about Kul Tirans: the emotes for them were pretty great. I felt like they were very expressive with the facial expressions, the hands moving everywhere. I love it. It's very animated for what we're used to, but I feel like it fits World of Warcraft aesthetic with the models. I love the Kul Tiran auto attack in particular. I feel like me pressing Sinister Strike actually takes away from some of the best looking parts of the combat animations. Like I felt that my Kul Tiran was actually trying to obliterate a train dummy, like actually trying to destroy it rather than trying to slap it with a sword or poke it gently. Instead, the character animation felt visceral, they felt exciting, they felt like there's purpose to them. And I really hope that Blizzard maybe takes some of these cues from the Kul Tiran's auto attacks and tries to apply it to some of the other races. In terms of the outer appearance, the Zandalari were pretty straightforward. It feels like they're a lot more finished. There's a lot of parts in Kul Tirans, like the jumping animations, some of the combat animations, some of the running animations, that feel a little bit janky. For the Zandalari, the female one, the only jankiness I could really find is when you're running forward and you're trying to turn left or turn right from keyboard, and it feels like the character is kind of sliding on the floor. Outside of that, everything else seems to work fine. Same thing goes for the males. It feels like most of the animations, from combat to simply running around to casting spells to using some of the emotes that are available, you know, things like dance are not implemented quite yet. But everything else looks a lot more polished and I guess in some sense more finalized. But then again, with the Zandalari, I think it was an easier job because the females are basically the original troll female models in skeleton, just with a brand new reskin of the Zandalari females. But a lot of the animations are literally exactly the same as the normal troll females. Same thing for the Zandalari males. It's basically the night elf aesthetic, some of the night elf mannerisms, some of the night elf models and actions, just applied with the Zandalari male skin. For Kul Tirans, however, it does feel like it's a brand new thing that's being added. It is brand new emotes, brand new skeleton, brand new way you stand, the mounts, the transmog, it's all completely overhauled. Almost feels like it's a brand new race, but it's an allied race. So it's actually very surprising. So in some sense, aesthetically, it feels like the Alliance definitely won out, while the Horde basically got somewhat of a reskin. Alright, let's talk a bit about the racials for Kul Tirans and Zandalari. I'll showcase you guys some parts of the racials. Parts I like, parts I don't. Again, work in progress. Hopefully Blizzard makes adjustments by the time this comes out to live. For Kul Tirans, Haymaker, an active ability, wind up and then unleash the might upon your foe, dealing physical damage, stunning for 3 seconds, and knocking them back substantially. Everything about this works except the substantially part. So it's actually a really cool racial. If the knockback is far enough, I do like the stun with it. It does have a 1-second cast time, but also a 6-yard range. So if enemy does try to get out of melee range, you still have that 1 extra yard to maybe reach them. Out of that, we have Brush It Off, which now increases versatility by 1%, and when you take damage, you heal for 2% of that amount over 4 seconds, which is a unique racial. I don't think it'll be insane for self-healing, but it's kind of cool if you're trying to recover from damage over time, especially if you're a tank. Child of the Sea, hold your breath for 50% longer and 10% faster swim speed. Just for the swim speed, I would literally go Kul Tiran. Jack of all trades, increases trade skills by 5. Rhyme the Ancient Mariner, Frost and Nature, resistance by 1%, and that's really about it. Overall, solid racials. I do like Haymaker. I do like the 3-second stun. The 1-second cast on it is a little bit wonky, but if this ability doesn't DR with other stuns, then this could be insanely good for rogues. We don't really know yet if this DRs or not. There's not a lot of people at the time of making this video for me to test. Pretty sure somebody in the comments will be able to point this out. I do like Child of the Sea though. I feel like there's certain areas in the game where you have to swim through it, and being able to swim 10% faster, honestly I should just get myself a faster swimming mount or a water walking mount, but because I don't have the time to do that, being a Kul Tiran with 10% faster swim speed, especially inside of instances where you cannot use a mount, is actually kind of nice. Overall, I feel like the racial itself is pretty versatile. The racials themselves, whether you're tank, whether you're DPS, are I guess okay, and I like Haymaker for mythic pluses as well as PvP capabilities. Now onto the Zandalari, and you have this huge tree of Embrace the lower racials, which change your gameplay in many ways, and also some of the smaller racials. Let's first dive into the Embrace of Loa. So far, this one is not finalized, so we don't really know what this is going to look like at the end. But the way that it works right now on PTR is, it's a 25-day cooldown. You get to choose which buff of these Loa you want. You either want Akunda, Wansamdi, Gonk, Kambul, Kragwa, or Paku, and depending on which Loa you decide to embrace will give you a passive that stays with you forever until you decide to right click it off. So just if you are in PTR, do not right click the racial, or I guess the Loa buff that you get, because you're not going to be able to get one for 25 days afterwards. Embrace of Akunda, your healing abilities have a chance to heal the target for an amount. Bwansamdi, your damaging abilities have a chance to deal shadow damage and heal you for 100% of the damage done. Gonk increases your movement speed by flat 5%. Kambul, your damaging abilities have a chance to cause the target to bleed for 6 seconds. This effect stacks up to 3 times. Kragwa, taking damage has a chance to grant you health and armor. And Paku, your abilities have a chance to grant you 5% critical strike until cancelled, whatever that means. Because of how weird PTR is, I did not get to test all the different racials. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow, maybe on live stream as of today. So the day this video comes out, check out the live stream on this channel, because chances are we'll be diving into some 8.1.5 racial testing for the Zandalari. But I decided to mess around with Kambul, the bleed stack, and yes, it actually can stack up to 2. Very, very low chance for it to happen. We probably will have a lot of math for certain classes like rogues with a lot of little attacks. You got dots, you got auto attacks, you got mutilates, you got envenoms, you got all these little abilities, but a lot of them, and all of these abilities have a higher chance to proc, let's say, the bleed one. So for classes with slower abilities, maybe you might want Bwansamdi, where you can deal shadow damage and heal for a lot. Maybe that shadow damage will scale with the slower your weapon is. So for armors warriors, paladins, maybe on holy death knights, you might want something like Bwansamdi. But for classes like rogues or classes with a lot of little dots, a lot of little hits left and right, maybe you'll want something like Kambul. Kragwa, of course, is good for tanking. Paku is a decent one for any class that uses crit, so I guess some classes will use that as well. And then, of course, Akunda is for anybody who is a healer. But I love the variety and how this lets you choose what racial you want. And it acts a lot similar to like a passive, almost like an Azeroth trait, but like a very, very minor version of a trait. Or like some kind of a trinket effect, or like, again, very, very minor version of. But this racial itself is huge. The game changing for Zandalari is going to be insane with Embrace of the Lower alone. I feel like it's going to play up heavily into whatever playstyle you want. But this racial allows you to play no matter what you want. Rogue, Paladin, Warrior, Priest, Druid, no matter whether you heal or tank or DPS, you have Embrace of the Lower to adjust to your playstyle, which I believe is absolutely insane. This is one of the coolest racials we've had, but maybe one of the more complex ones in the game. Outside of that, you have some interesting racials. City of Gold, increase gold earned from creatures by 2%. So when you slay an enemy, you get a little bit of copper, a little bit of silver. For anybody who loves farming old school dungeons, this will be actually a pretty good one because the amount of gold you generate is going to be a little bit better. Then you have a racial called Regenerating. It's an active ability that's channeled over 4 seconds and lets you regenerate 25% of your maximum health every 1 second over 4 seconds with 1.5 minute cooldown. So to heal yourself for 25% of your health is nice, but you have to stand and channel this ability. So in a sense, it is very unique, but it also does offer implications like you can't move anywhere. Outside of that, you probably have the coolest racial in terms of what you can do with it. Pterodac Swoop. It reduces your falling speed for 2 minutes, 50-minute cooldown, and you guessed it, it is basically racial goblin glider, but you get to ride a dinosaur on the way down. Honestly, if I had to choose, I think Zandalari trolls definitely win out on racials, and the Horde wins out on racials themselves. I love the aesthetic of Kul Tirans. I love everything about it, from the auto attacks to the animations and how unique they are. But Zandalari, while they are kind of a reskin of some of the old models and skeletons, the racials are insane, and the implications for what those racials can do, I feel like gives Zandalari Troll the edge of versatility. Whether you are a cunning, fast rogue, whether you are a heavy-hitting warrior, whether you are a paladin trying to protect your allies, or even a priest trying to heal your group, no matter what class you are, you can use this Embrace of the Loa to beef up your damage to allow you to do just about whatever you want. It does have a pretty long cooldown, so I wonder if Blizzard will adjust this in the future, but the way it is right now, it gives you so much versatility, and you can basically have a racial that works for anything. Pterodac Swoop is insanely cool to be able to slow falling speed. The heal that you can get from regenerating can be insane in duels even, and I feel like it just gives so much more viability and flexibility to Zandalari. Probably the most versatile racials I've ever seen, and I'm honestly impressed. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on Kul Tirans and Zandalari. This was my first impression and first look into both of these new allied races, the racials, as well as how they play. I'm glad that Blizzard is releasing them right now on PTR for us to run around and test. I want to take a closer look at the Druid models and the Shaman models for both of these allied races, so that's probably going to be one of the videos coming out to the channel in the near future, as in probably tomorrow or the day after that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. There's a lot for me to cover for patch 8.1. Let me know some of the things you guys want to see. Let me know your thoughts about the Kul Tirans. Thank you guys again though so much for watching this video. Support of the channel is always appreciated, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.